Hello and welcome to this episode of Navigating the Water, where we are joined as always by our fabulous host, Stephanie Mckinney, CEO and founder of River VC. How are you, Stephanie?
I'm great. How are you, Kim?
I'm really good, thank you. It feels like forever since I last chatted to you, but I know it was only a couple of weeks, but things just move so quickly at the moment, don't they?
Oh, yes, especially with the Easter holiday and the spring, and it's starting to feel like summer. So everything has been hectic, but it has been great.
And do you find that the same is true in the investing world? Do we get to that sort of like spring has sprung and people feel the need to just get out there and start to really get focus on their proposition and what they're building as a business?
Yes, I think Q2 and Q3 are where you see a lot of new investments. You see a lot of new companies coming. It feels like during winter, everyone was inside their cave, working on their pitch deck, working on their team. And now it's a spring season. It's a free for all, and everyone's out there trying to get their foot in the door.
Yeah, I think there is something, isn't there, about that change in season that gives us renewed energy. I was talking to somebody just the other day about the fact you can't help but feel hopeful when it's spring because there's so much new things that are coming to life in nature, which I think brings it to us. And I know for me personally, in the last couple of weeks, I've spoken to a number of people seeking investment, particularly female founders that are seeking investment. And there kind of seems to be a bit of a theme, which is one of the things that they are most concerned about is they know their business, they know their passion, they know what they can deliver, they believe in their future. But the minute you kind of say you're going to have to go and pitch, they're kind of almost, I'm not sure I tell the story well enough. And when you dig into some of that, it's because they've got people that are experts in certain areas to help them. I mean, you mentioned in one of our very first episodes, some of the most important people to get on your team quickly, your lawyer and your accountant. So it's kind of those elements that go, if you're bringing in those expertise, is it good if you have a team, as long as it's not too big a team, that come with you to support the pitch so that you can navigate those challenging questions on areas that might not be your number one forte?
Right. I think that is helpful, especially if, you have a specific area, maybe your area is coding and you're not too keen on finances, that you bring on that person. And it's okay to tell, if it's a one-on-one, pitch, it's okay to say, hey, I value that question. I don't have the answer and I don't want to give you false information. Would you like to set up a meeting with our accountant, or would you like to set up a meeting with our coder and we could dive into that? That way you're showing them that you know it through and through, but you don't know every nook and cranny in it. And you have the resources at your capable hands that you can call upon those other people that you trust with your company. So I think I've been in meetings where that's happened, and he was very smart. He was very, technical, to the point, logical. And there was a financial question that was asked, and he said, I don't know that information. Let me get you that information and let me get it to you correctly. So being vulnerable while being frank is a good thing to have. And if you want to set up another meeting with them, that shows them that you're interested in not just their money, but in answering their questions about your company.
I love that. And it's right, isn't it? Because I guess in that situation, that person was just demonstrating what they would do in real life. In real life, I've been in corporate life for a lot of years. You would go and ask the CFO if anything got too technical. As the CEO, I know a lot about finances, but if it got really tricky, that's why I had a CFO. So I could go to them and go, could you just come and help me with the kind of this element, because that's perhaps a little too technical, a bit too out of my detail. But I guess it's gaining that confidence when you're in that founding place, isn't it, to say that it's okay to have that team and to demonstrate what you would do in real life, is not blag the question, but go and seek the advice.
Right, exactly. And you're going to have those people that ask the harder questions because they want to know. And you need to know that you don't know everything.
Yes.
So if you want to, in the introductory email, say, if you have any specific financial questions, please email them prior so I can make sure that I get all the information to you.
Great advice. Because then you can go in prepared. Because I think that's one of the challenges, isn't it? We try and prepare for everything, but you can never plan for everything, can you? Because you just don't know what's going to happen on the day. So I think it's doing everything that you can to get yourself as well prepared as you can. And that's great advice, in that try and find out what some of their specific questions are, so that you can either go in with the person or you can go in with the answer, so that you can help the investor understand how the business is going to run and how it's going to operate.
A couple of times I have emailed the CEO, and instead of just me and him or me and her, they add their team. They CC their team automatically. And I like that, because it shows camaraderie. It shows that you guys are together on every step of the way. So I think that is also a key thing, to show that you have a front, you have a team supporting your company behind you. And if they have any questions specifically for that, then that person needs to answer and address it.
I love it. And on that note, so having your team around you is great. Is it also useful if you've got an advisory team, so experts that aren't necessarily employed by the business, but are there supporting and giving that kind of trusted advisor piece? Is it useful to show them in your pitch deck, not bring them to the pitch, but show them and show this specifically what it is that they're advising on? What is it that they bring to the party?
Oh, absolutely. I think usually they have a team slide with your core people, and then they have their advisors, who it's a lot done through medical, because not everyone knows every specific thing about their body or other people. And so they have their advisors. They have their advisors in neurology. They have their advisors in cardiology. So having that slide to show that even though you're not an expert in that field, you have someone who you have on speed dial who you can talk to automatically.
I love that. It's great advice there. And I guess that's some of the things that people have been bringing up when we've been having these conversations, is should I have those people, and how do I actually go and find an advisory board? How do you go out and approach people? And certainly one of the things I've suggested to them is start with your network, start with the people that you know, and run that past them, show them what it is that you're doing, because actually if they're willing to come on board and be an advisor, that also demonstrates some belief in what it is that you're doing as well. Have you got any other advice for people in how they build that advisory support?
I would start with your first degree connections and go from there. Like, if you have someone who is specific in that area, they know 5 to 10 other people. So it's like the what is it? The Kevin Bacon 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
6 degrees of bacon. Yeah.
Yes, exactly that. You have connections, even though you may think that your network is small. You have someone in that field, because you're not going to jump from you're in a medical field with all your medical connections to now you're building an app. You're usually going to go from a medical field to a medical app, and then you're going to meet people on the way. Also, building a network means you're actively doing it. You're not just going to be like, oh, well, I did 5 emails, I'm good. You're going to go to the conferences, you're going to dress your best, you're going to look your best, you're going to make sure that you're out there representing your company, even if it's on Zoom or on webs, you make sure that you're out there doing it, and you're representing your company on who you are, as well as bringing your team with you. So they can do that. Because if you go find 5 people in that summit, your team's finding 5 people, your other team's finding 5 people. That's a plethora amount of people that you can go and research and look for.
I love that. It's great advice. And I know sometimes that whole networking piece can be difficult, can't it? And I'd done it for years in my corporate job, but I got a big company name and a big title. And I remember going the very first time to a networking event on my own when I set up my own business. I'm sitting in the car going, I can't go in. Can't go in, because actually no one's going to want to talk to me, and it's only little old me with my little old business, and I can't do this. And I remember having have a word with myself and going, seriously, Kim, you're in an Indian restaurant in the middle of an industrial estate in Sleaford. What's the worst that can happen? It's like, you're going to be fine. Just man up and get in there and just represent your business. And what I found when I got in there was everybody felt the same. Everyone else was there a bit nervous, but it's amazing the people that you can meet if you just take that leap of faith, isn't it? And go out there and start talking to people. And not just necessarily at networking events. I had the privilege of being at an awards dinner on Friday night and met some amazing people who hadn't gone thinking of that, but ended up finding some great connections, not just for me, but for people in my network, to help them out. So I think it's being open, isn't it, wherever you are, to what opportunity it might present.
Right. And I think networking works both ways. You network for yourself, and then you network for your network. And once that clicks, your network starts to become more of your people that you talk to every day, more of the people that you want to email, more of the people that you want to connect other people to that you meet. So a lot of people network solely for themselves, and those people aren't building a stable web. The people that are building stable webs are going back and they connect the dots to other people. So I think once you network for your network, that will help you grow.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And it's so true, isn't it? You know, everybody I ever connect with, I always ask if we can have a coffee, not so that I can tell them about me, but so I can learn about them. It's like, if I better understand you and what you need, I'm better placed to look in my network and see who I can help connect you with. Whereas if I don't know that, then I might connect you with the wrong people, or you just won't be front of mind. I won't connect you with anybody because I don't know enough about you to feel like I can connect. So, you know, one of the things I encourage people to do is if you've taken the leap to reach out and connect with somebody on LinkedIn, even if it was cold, do the follow up and have a conversation with them, not to sell them something, but to get to know them, you know, to get to understand what's important to them and see how you might help them as much as how they might help you. So I love that whole network for your network. That's great advice.
Thank you. Yeah. I think with what you just said there, reaching back, a lot of times I'm, guilty of it too, because you're thinking about yourself, you're doing your thing and you're on your path, but reaching back to making sure that those, even if it wasn't a strong connection, but you're not losing those connections, reaching back and saying, hey, I remember talking to you last April. How's it going? How are you? How's the company? And that way they're like, oh, wow, she thought about us and she's coming back, even though we haven't heard from her. But following up is critical in making sure that your network is strong. Because you can have a big network, but if you drop a penny on it, it's gone, right?
Well, that's it. And you can have thousands of people in there, but how many of them you've actually spoken to? I think is it Dunbar's number that's 150? It says that the most people we can have really meaningful connections with at any one time is 150, because it's very difficult to do more than that and keep it going. But that doesn't mean you can't have a bigger network than that, but it's remembering to circle back, isn't, like you say, so that you can pick up the people that might have been in that 150 last year and have fallen out of it this year, so that you can kind of reconnect.
Yeah, and when you do that, be honest. I have been busy, and I apologize for slipping under the cracks, but I really wanted to make sure that I valued you and your time. And how are you guys doing? How is your company doing? I would love to jump on a call or meet you or grab coffee or something that shows that you're genuine and you're not just like, hey, how's it going? I haven't talked to you. Okay, good, bye.
Yeah, and I think that is one thing, isn't it? As individuals, irrelevant of who we are, I think at our base we want to be listened to, understood, and respected.
Exactly.
So if we can deliver that for our network, for our community, if we can provide a space where we're listening to them, we're trying to understand them, and we're respecting them and their time, then actually the rest becomes much easier, because they're the kind of people you want to spend time with, and you want to learn from them too. So I think that's amazing. And I know one of the things we've been doing with this series, and you've been doing so beautifully, is demystifying some of the jargon, some of the language that gets out of there that confuses us all, or rather confuses me and many of our listeners. And it doesn't confuse you, because you so beautifully and eloquently help us understand what it is. But one of the first ones I've got is safes. Can you tell me more?
Yes, it is hard, because when you're new. You don't know the area, you don't know what you're getting into. You try to find a lawyer who's specific in whatever field you're in, and it's hard. And when you start off not knowing a lot, it gets harder, because then you just kind of roll with it without actually understanding it. So I would love to break down safes and convertible notes and convertible instruments versus price rounds deeply in another episode. I'm going to give a synopsis right now, but for the listeners, please be aware that this is critical and this is important, and we're going to dive into it in another episode, so stay tuned. But let's talk about it. So there's convertible instruments, which is done typically early on, where you say, hey, I'm doing this company, this is what we're doing, would you invest in this company, and I will give you shares later on, because you don't want to give away your control. So convertible instruments help you have control. They're also a little bit easy because you don't have to negotiate, because you may come with a leading partner who wants to control a little bit more shares, $2 for one share, so on, $1 for a share. And you don't have to do that with these convertible instruments. So these are more of your loans. These are more of your, once you give you the money, after that, we'll give you shares once we grow a little bit.
Yeah.
Price rounds are done later on when you have that stability in your company. You've done all the convertible notes, you've converted them, and now you're ready to give $1 per share. So let's say someone gives you $100 and your round is $1 per share. They have 100 shares in your company. Those are called price rounds. So back to the convertible instruments, they're broken down into two main ones: safes and convertible notes. Convertible notes are more like debt. It's a loan with an interest rate. So if you give me $100 now and the interest rate is 15, and in a year we're ready to convert, you have $115, which gives you a little bit more shares, right? Because if it's $1 for a share, it's $1, you have 115 shares.
Okay.
That is a little bit more difficult to do, because once you get the convertible note, you convert when you raise a certain amount.
Okay.
So you don't do it when you raise your next round. You do it when you have raised, let's say, 5 million. So that gives the founder a little bit more flexibility with raising capital, with making sure their product is good. For a safe, it's done at the next round.
Okay. So let me just make sure I understand this, which I think I do. So if I were going for a convertible note, and say my next round was only to get 1 million, but I've done my convertible note at 5 million, I don't have to turn that into those shares until I hit the 5 million mark. So at the 1 million mark, I've got a bit more flexibility. Whereas if I were doing a safe, at the point I get the 1 million, I would need to give them the shares.
Exactly. So, and with that, you lose control.
Yeah.
You lose a portion of your company, which is what we talked about. It's going to happen no matter what. But with safes, you lose control a little bit earlier on. So let's say you didn't finish building your MVP or your team at that next round, but now you have to convert. And now your shareholders have a little bit of say in what you're doing. And earlier on, sometimes that's a little bit harder to do, because you're like, no, that's not the direction we want to take it. We want to go this way. But now you have to fight against other people's opinions and judgment. So convertible rounds and safes have their plus and minuses. They're used in a lot of different companies in a lot of different ways, but usually they're used early on in your pre-seed, in your seed round, when you're building your MVP, and then the priced rounds are used later.
Okay. And sorry, forgive me, I'm going to have to ask. I know you said that we were just doing a synopsis and we'll dig into this. No, I think we could do an entire episode on this because it sounds quite.
We will.
But relatively simple, but making sure that you navigate it through. So what's a price round at a high level?
Yes, the price rounds are when you do the shares. So
right.
Yes, you saying, okay, you give me $100 and I'll automatically convert it to 100 shares. Right. There are a couple of different ones.
Immediate exchange almost.
Right, exactly. And those are done in your series and that's why a lot of VCs like it, because I get that instantaneous dive into your company.
Yeah, so I guess for them, one of the upsides is if they think there is a need to tweak direction, they've immediately got not just skin in the game, but they've got some say in the game.
Right.
Because you've done that Obviously everyone's got skin in the game, they've parted with cash for these things, but at that point, the minute you've got the shares, you've also got some say, haven't you?
Exactly. And the more, which is why VCs raise money to have that say, the VCs usually do have, or the leading partner, the LP, has a bigger say in what is done because they have the bigger check.
Yeah. Okay. Fascinating, because you can see how just navigating your way around, I mean, there's so many bits, isn't there? You've got your different rounds, and then you've got your different notes and exchanges, and it kind of all feels like it interweaves a little bit like a spider's web in trying to work out how best we navigate through, which is why this series is so useful. I'm learning so much about it. And I guess one of the key things is just helping understand what the terminology is, so that you don't feel immediately blindsided the minute somebody throws one of those terms at you, because there's enough going on in a pitch, isn't there, where you're already feeling nervous of the things you know without them throwing at you terms that you've just got no idea about.
Right, which is something that this needs to be in your slide. Yeah. You know, we're raising a seed round at 5 million and we're doing a convertible note. So you need to come out with the truth and what you're raising, how much you're raising, which is what I want to dive in later, because the convertible note is based off of valuations, pre-money valuations, post-money valuations, which is something that really needs to be broken down to its core for people to understand it.
That would be, I'm looking forward to that episode, because that is one of almost the number one questions the people that I talk to, which is, how do you work out what your valuation is? Or two, when they show it me, it's like, how did you work your valuation out? And how do you justify that valuation so that you feel more confident when you're stood in front of that investor that there's a justifiable story around where you got that from?
Right. Yes, exactly. And that comes with who your team is, how you're going to build your team up. And I think we're kind of going full circle, but confidence in the meeting where you can say, I don't know this answer, let me look it up. And then confidence in knowing the terminology, understanding where it's coming from, when you need it, what round you're in, what kind of, note you're going to do or safe you're going to do. Confidence is lacking in a lot of female founders. And it's because the terminology is scarce to them, right? Tooth and nail for everything that they're given or taken or deserve. It's always tooth and nail, which is why when you come to female founders, they have that confidence. They have that built because they've been run through the rig. They've been, scrutinized and trampled over, and making sure that their voice is heard and their company is heard is critical, which is why River has created Navigating the Waters, to making sure that investors have that confidence and the founders have that confidence to go out there and do what needs to be done to make this world a safer, better place.
I love that. It's so true. And I think there was research done probably about 30 years ago now, show my age, that showed that actually when we look at from a CV point of view, but I think it replicates into the investing world. When we look at job descriptions, females are hardwired to look at the things they can't do yet, and men are hardwired to look at the things they can already do. And the chances are both actually have got equal gaps in them, but women will hold themselves back because of the things they can't do yet, whereas men will move forward with the fact, well, I can do all of these other things and I can learn those, or I can bring in the right people to do it. And I think that possibly marries itself, doesn't it, into the investment world. And it's how we help gain the confidence in, look at the things you do really well, and then build the team around you that does the things you don't know how to do.
Exactly. And showing that vulnerable is confident. That's confidence, is showing your vulnerability. So saying, I don't have that answer right now, but I have a person who is fully equipped with giving you the correct answer. Let me get them on the line. That's confidence.
Absolutely. Because it takes a big thing, doesn't it, to demonstrate any vulnerability. But I think that's where we're heading to now, is actually people realize that we're all vulnerable about something, and therefore having the confidence to share that isn't something that isn't a weakness, it's a sign of strength, because a lot of other people still wouldn't know it, but they'd try and blag their way through, and that's never a good space to be in, is it?
Right, exactly.
Caught out in that spot.
I've seen that, and I want to fix that 3% of female founders are getting fundraised, and I want to do that. And the reason that Navigating the Waters is here is because we're doing that. I sat there at the year 2 of River, and I was like, how can I do this? And yes, I can just give them a check and hope they do good. But I also want to educate people. I want them to understand and have the confidence and build the confidence of knowing the terminology, knowing what it's going to take and what it's going to take, the tools that you need to build this. So when River is actually starting to raise its first fund, which I'm very excited about, I'm going to be out there pitching myself to many different people, and it's going to be on the other side of the table. So it's very interesting. But I want to make sure people know that River's out there to help investors, to help founders, not just through a paycheck, but through education, through understanding, by building this community through Navigating the Waters and going together. Because I'm not just going to hand this tool to you and then not show you how to use it.
I love that. And on that note, am I correct in thinking that today is 2 years of River?
Yes. This is River's anniversary. So it is very exciting. May the 4th be with River, because it is growing and it is definitely shaking the waters that is VCs.
I love it. Well, congratulations and happy anniversary. And thank you for letting me share in your celebration and be here on this episode. And I'm really looking forward to the next episodes. I know we're going to dive into so much more detail, specifically, as we've already talked about today, around safe and convertible notes and pricing rounds. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? And I know you've also got some amazing guests lined up to share their journey so far, and hopefully to be with them on that journey as they come back and tell us in later episodes how they're progressing through their rounds.
Exactly. I'm very excited with Navigating the Waters. We will be interviewing some amazing founders, hearing about their company, and then to build confidence in all of them, I want to have them back on and run their pitch if they feel comfortable running their pitch and then getting critiqued by other founders, which I think is amazing, because you guys are like, well, why'd you add that slide? Or why are you adding it this way? Or should you put your team first or last? Or how would you do this? So asking those questions to other people that are in the same boat as you is going to be instrumental in helping them grow.
I love that. It's like almost like a founder's mastermind, isn't it? That group of pulling people together at peers, which I think is going to be just sensational. I mean, we've all seen the power of masterminding, and I think doing it in that space is really unique, but it's going to be really powerful.
Yes, I hope so. So we're excited for all the guests that are appearing. And if anyone has any questions or wants to be on Navigating the Waters, please email me or the lovely Kim, and we will get you on here.
Fantastic. Well, it's been a joy as always. And until next time.
All right. Thank you.